Brothers, sisters, today is Buddha's teaching day. I'm really happy to celebrate Buddha's teaching day. Today is 2,936 years ago, Buddha Shakyamuni taught Dharma in Varanasi, India. 5 human beings, 80,000 gods, and he taught Four Noble Truths. I'm really grateful for that. And I taught this Four Noble Truths to many people, and a lot of people benefit. And Sarah is very amazing, understanding some of Dharma, so she will offer it to you.
Hello, everyone. So today, 2,936 years ago, Buddha taught Dharma. And I would first like to really rejoice in that, because without that, I wouldn't be able to teach you what I'm going to teach you today, which is really something very fundamental and something that's becoming more and more acceptable, which is thinking has power and intention, and the power of intention that goes with it. So starting out with thinking, a lot of people have this idea that thinking is, a product of the brain, or just, something that you can keep to yourself that's just yours, and you can have a lot of anger, but just as long as you don't show it, you're great. It's okay. Not a bodge, everything's fine. But as we start to become more and more aware, we realize, oh, that's actually not the case. And one of the ways I'm going to show this is in a 2007 NPR interview titled, "Can Thought and Action Change Our Brain?" Because before that, there was this kind of idea that the brain was this static thing, that you had it when you were a baby, and then if you lost brain cells, you lost brain cells, and, well, that's it. And then when you die, you die. But science is kind of now catching up and realizing, that's not exactly the case. And this is really what NPR was trying to bring about, trying to speed this up. And so what really got the scientists thinking about it was stroke patients. Because, as most people know, a stroke damages parts of brain. And usually you lose function of parts of your body or all of your body. And one of the biggest examples was a man who had lost function of his left hand. And by scientific means, that means that some part in his right brain, the part that said, oh, left hand move, was annihilated. The cause for his hand moving was annihilated. Therefore, the result, his hand moving, was never going to happen. But this guy refused to believe that. So instead, he decided, you know what, I'm not going to stand for this. So he taped down his right hand, his good hand, leaving only his limp hand. And after 3 months or so, he actually not only gained feeling in his left hand, but was actually able to use it as well as his right hand. And then, that kind of kicked this idea of, well, maybe, the brain isn't as simple, or even, like, cause isn't as simple as we thought it was. So they decided to do another study with 2 groups of 30 people or so. And they had one group playing a simple 10-chord piano piece, and they had them come in 3 times a week, practice for 20 minutes, and then go about their lives. And they measured the brain at the beginning of the experiment and at the end, and found that the part of the brain that controlled, supposedly, the cerebral cortex area of the piano playing had grown by a certain amount. And then what they did with the second group is the exact same thing, only instead of having them actually play the 10 chords, they said, imagine, visualize you practicing these 10 chords. Imagine that you're practicing these 10 chords. And they did the same thing, came in 3 times a week, practiced for about 20 minutes, or visualized practicing for about 20 minutes. And then when they measured at the beginning and the end, the cerebral cortex, it had grown just as much as the people who had actually been playing the piano pieces. So really, it's showing that the thinking is as powerful as action, if not more, and that the thinking has power. The Buddha said in the Essence of Merit Sutra, it is the virtuous or unvirtuous intention that makes the difference, not the physical manifestation of virtue and vice. So we know now that thinking plays a role in our lives. It's not just something that you have and then it goes away. It has an effect. So when trying to figure out what it is, we look kind of at our situation. And we're going to look at happiness and suffering, because everyone wants happiness and doesn't want to suffer. So that's what we're going to deal with. Most people have an idea that the cause of suffering is external. And everyone has a little belief in cause and effect, that there is a cause and then an automatic resultant effect. The thing that people don't really catch on to, follow the logic, is that a certain cause will have a necessary effect. In the same way that an apple seed will necessarily create an apple seed, then you also have a cause will necessarily create that result. So a cause for happiness can only result in happiness. A cause for suffering can only result in suffering. So a lot of people mistake that when looking at the cause of happiness and suffering. For example, the biggest example is like girlfriends or boyfriends. So I'm walking around and I see this beautiful, perfect man. He's dark, he's handsome, he's strong, he's tall. Oh, he's the same religion as me. Oh, he's so nice, he's so mysterious, but he's got a sensitive side. He has a bunny. Well, I get this, all I want is for this man to embrace me in his warm embrace, and oh, it happens, and I'm happy for a month, and then he cheats on me. And suddenly, this man is too tall, and so big, and mean, and angry. And now, what was previously the cause of my happiness is now the cause of my suffering. Which doesn't hold up with logic. So, a lot of suffering comes from just that too. Like, why is, because you can't control it. If it's outside, you can't control it unless you escape all conditions, which is impossible. Because even if you live in a cave, and there's always that bramble bush that catches on my robes when I walk out, So, look at every single moment that you've been happy. Every single moment. And find what was the only thing, what was the one thing that was congruent throughout all of those, every single instance. And what you'll find is yourself. Your thinking. You are the only common denominator between every experience of you having happiness. So it's safe to assume that the cause of happiness can be found within oneself. Similarly, cause of suffering is found within oneself. But it's not just yours. In the same way that an apple seed causes an apple tree, it needs the right conditions around it. And thinking is my cause, but it's also a condition for everyone else. So you can see this really clearly if you're around someone who's really angry. If you have someone who's really angry, it's really hard to have happiness and positive thinking when you're around them. There's the common phrase, when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. This is a really good example of that. Because if mama ain't happy, she's a condition for everyone else not being happy. When mama's happy, it's a condition for everyone else to be happy. It's easier because the condition is there. So it's ripe, it's making the soil rich for that good cause. So now that we know the cause and condition of happiness and suffering, what we really have to do is take responsibility for it. So instead of saying, oh, that cause of my suffering is external, what you say instead is, all right, that is only a condition, and I am the cause. I have not only responsibility, but I have the power to not suffer anymore. And now that I know what suffering is, what leads to suffering, which is negative thinking, then I know how to decrease it. And when really looking at it, because you know the causes within yourself for both happiness and suffering, you'll notice also that the times you're happy, you're having renunciation, compassion, love, faith, and wisdom. And the times when you're unhappy is when you're angry, when you're jealous, when you're greedily clinging to something, when you're really holding on to how bad you are or how good you are, and when you're just really being stupid, ignorant. And so you look at those and realize, I don't want that anymore. And that leads to more responsibility, and then you decide, I'm going to be a positive condition. I'm going to be a positive condition because it causes my happiness, and it helps other people be happy. And if you're still on the selfish level, then if other people are happy, it's easier for you to be happy. But as you develop more and more, you'll realize it actually makes me feel better to want other people to be happy. So then we develop bodhicitta, which I won't go into because I've got 30 seconds left or something before YouTube would cut me off. But really, take responsibility and realize you can be happy whenever you want. It's great. You get to choose when to be happy. And with that, may all sentient beings be happy. And I'm so thankful Buddha taught. So thankful.
Thank you.